Hello, dear viewers, you are on the channel Life Cucumber Brick. Good mood to you, and enjoy listening. You wouldn't dare, you'd be lost, you have nothing. Well, if I can make it up to you, I'll make it up to you somehow. Emily even stomped her foot, and I'll squash you like a bedbug. I'll keep all the money. No one will ever want anything to do with you. Emily, you know that everyone who worked with our company, oh, excuse me, with yours, knew that you understand absolutely nothing about business. And all this you have only thanks to me. Emily sat down. Well, it turns out Victor has a voice. She thought she'd broken it. And Victor looked at her funny. Do you think I know what you wanted? You wanted me to be like a slug, to obey you in everything, to fulfill every whim, and always be at your feet. You wanted to be cool in front of your friends. But I warned you, didn't I? I told you you were overdoing it. I told you I needed a family and kids on top of all the tinsel. Emily made a feeble attempt to object. You didn't. You did, Emily, only you're the kind of man who only hears himself. But we loved each other, didn't we? I agree. And I'm not even sure that feeling has completely worn off. But it's impossible to live with you. As you can see, I'm willing to give up everything to not be around you anymore. I can't breathe, and you like it very much. Emily got up and said, well, go away. I'll find a replacement for you in a few days. Victor stood up and grinned. I wish you happiness, but you were wrong about the replacement. Everybody here knows your temper. You'll have to send me a replacement from out of town or change your bitchy behavior. And believe me, the second is much better and more useful, not only to others, but also to you. Get out of here, who needs you? And I've been with you all this time just out of pity. Victor looked at her for a long moment. It made Emily want to bite her tongue. But she immediately remembered that her husband was leaving her and lifted her chin up. You know, honey, whatever my temper is, I'm on a roll now, even though you're leaving me and you're just an idiot. Yeah, I managed to convince you that the farm should be in my name alone, and you. Victor raised his hand. Emily, I'm not interested in hearing all this. I'm sorry, I have to go. They're waiting for me. She blocked his way. Who is she? I'll grind her to dust. You have no idea what I'll do to her. Victor silently pushed her aside and left the apartment. Emily rushed to the window. There he opened the trunk, threw the bags in there, got behind the wheel. She saw the car pull out of the yard and knew the jokes were over. Her husband had left her. She was abandoned by someone in whom she had more confidence than in herself. They had met, dated, married. It wasn't anything too romantic or very interesting, except Victor. He didn't like to say extra words, he just did. He was the one who suggested opening this firm, but after he had calculated everything and thought everything through. At first, Emily was a little scared, but then she got a taste for it. The firm was registered in her name. Everywhere and all the time it was her. Victor really didn't like publicity. He worked and she shined. Gradually, she got so into her tastes that she started shouting at us, telling us how and what to do. If at first she did it only at home and Victor did not pay attention to her, that she began to humiliate him in public. So much so that she felt like the sole mistress, that she completely forgot that she was pulling it all Victor. There was more. She was sucked in by her sense of exceptionalism. And when Victor tried to stop her, said that she was too into the role, she unleashed on him such a torrent of dirt, evicted him to the couch in the living room, and stopped paying attention to him, as if he was nothing. Here's the bottom line. Emily cried all night, but by morning she had pulled herself together. She is strong, she is a businesswoman, and she doesn't care about anybody. She can handle this firm on her own, and Victor will still be jealous. The trouble began almost from the first day. She received a phone call from some firm. A little digging in her memory, Emily finally remembered that they have long been cooperating. They asked why they couldn't reach Victor. Victor doesn't work here anymore. He was fired with a bang. Apparently, he changed his phone number too. Emily, are you serious? Absolutely. She could barely contain herself from adding some strong words. I heard you. Goodbye. Wait, why do you need him? Now all questions can be solved directly with me, without any intermediaries. I think it's even more convenient. The person on the other end sighed, then said, We'll think about it. Have a nice day. He dropped the phone. Emily threw the phone on the table with a full swing. They'll think about it, clever people. The mood was ruined. She glanced at her watch and dialed her hairdresser. Sabrina, I want a dramatic change. Emily, you know me, I'm like a pioneer, always ready. She spent the rest of the afternoon at the hairdresser's. Just beginning to recover her mood, the secretary called. Emily, the Echo representatives are here. We were going to sign a contract with them. You gave them an appointment today. She almost knocked herself on the head. How could she forget? But now she couldn't get out of that comfortable chair and Sabrina's capable hands. Alice, I'm busy. An unforeseen circumstance. Reschedule them for tomorrow, or better yet, next week. Well, Emily, they're already here. Emily even blushed with rage. Alice, can't you hear me? I said everything. And if it's difficult for you to work and perform your duties, I can find you a replacement. She hung up, and then she said, You have no idea, Sabrina, how hard it is to run such a big firm. Sabrina eagerly joined the conversation. The more professional the psychologist in the hairdresser, the more tips she gets. The next day, Emily learned that Echo's firm had withdrawn its documents. At first, she freaked out, then waved her hand. I don't really need them here either, and I'm doing just fine without them. The phone rang on the table. Emily, how are you? We just found out what Victor had done. Emily was uncomfortable with her friends knowing too much. What did he do? Well, he dumped you. Nonsense, I was the one who kicked him out. Emily, you're really something. Good for you. Let's get together like in the good old days. Let's sit and have some fun. That you restaurant shuttered, but let's see the men. Emily immediately perked up. Shall we, when? They agreed on the end of the week, and Emily, by all means, decided that Victor should see how much fun she was having, and that she was not suffering at all without him. She was suffering, but she wasn't going to show it. The party promised to be very interesting at first. Emily glanced around the room. There were a lot of men. Some with wives, of course, but most without. The girls had already ordered, and there were more liquor than appetizers on the list. Girls, here's to us. In an hour, Emily was already dancing in the center of the hall, looking around furtively, but Victor was nowhere to be found. And she texted him that she was going to have fun. Even invited him to watch her celebrate freedom. It can't be that he wasn't interested at all. Well, he can't, that's all. After a couple of hours, she went nuts. Victor never showed up, and she didn't want to just drink and have fun. Emily, I saw Victor last night with some lady, so full of herself, and without end, Victor, young, beautiful, hanging on his arm. Emily raised her drunken eyes to her friend. So, why are you telling me this? I don't give a damn about him. And anyway, I have to go home. You're the ones with nothing to do, and I have a business to run. Emily stood up abruptly, swayed, caught her balance, and walked toward the exit. The men were all unpleasant. No one offered to walk her out. To hell with them. She went outside, pulled out her phone, texted her husband. That was it. Then, I'll marry the first guy I meet. She walked down the street. The tears rolled so fast that Emily didn't have time to wipe them away. Why is such a beautiful woman alone? Oh, she's crying too. She stopped abruptly. There was a homeless man standing in front of her. Well, not the kind of man who scurries through garbage dumps, a little better. But it was obvious that the man didn't bother to work, and there was the smell of booze. Although Emily reeked of it too. And I'm not crying. The man took her under his arm. Let me walk you out so no one bothers you. Everybody knows me here. No one's going to come around. What are you doing walking? Emily has become so pleasant. He's not old, he's handsome, but he's not much better looking. You never know what's happened to him. She stopped and looked at him attentively. What's your name? David. What's your name? I'm Emily. And she laughed, not knowing why. You know what, David? He smiled, looked around. No, I don't. Can you marry me? He was dazed and looked at her. Marry me? Yes. Yes, I have money, a lot of money, but I need to teach my ex-husband a lesson. Well, for the sake of justice, of course. Emily looked at him drunkenly. Just to get justice. No, you're very beautiful, but you already know that. That's right. Emily held her finger up, and they moved on. David said thoughtfully, So that means we're engaged today? Emily laughed. That's right. Well, then she needs to be celebrated. Since I don't care, she's marrying you. I suggest we go to your place and continue the celebration. Emily looked at him in surprise, and then she exclaimed, What a splendid idea. She didn't see David's eyes flash. They entered the apartment, and David whistled. Whoa. Emily smiled. Do you like it? She had sobered up a little on the way, and now she couldn't think of a way to get rid of her new acquaintance without offending him or making him angry. David, thank you for walking me out. You leave me your coordinates. He gave us a laughing look. How you changed your mind about marrying me? Well, that's not the point. I just imagined how good my life would be. I was getting used to it, and you decided to screw me over. Emily involuntarily stepped back. So different from David. But he moved toward her. No, dear bride, from this day forward, you and I will be inseparable. Where you go, I go. Only where I go, you won't go there. You'll wait for me honestly at home. Natasha rushed to the exit, but he grabbed her by the hair and threw her to the floor. He fell on top of her. No, that's no way to do business. Emily fainted with fear and disgust at the thought of it. There it was, her stupid behavior. She tried to break free, but was immediately fist-bumped. Already fainting, she felt the man no longer press against her. She opened her eyes abruptly and saw Victor. Victor. She saw her husband grab the homeless man, press him against the wall with his fist a couple of times, and then throw him out the door. Victor turned to her, walked over, lifted her to her feet with a jerk. What are you doing, stupid? He'd never yelled at her in his life. He'd never yelled at anyone in his life. And now he didn't shy away from it. And she felt so good. You yell at me, that's what I want. She suddenly cried. Vanya sat down next to her. What's wrong with you? Victor, I'm really stupid. I was playing around. I thought I needed it that way. And when you weren't around, I realized that I didn't need all this. I need you. He hugged her. What am I supposed to do with you? A year went by. Victor was rushing home from work. He stopped at a flower shop. He often bought flowers now. And how not to buy when the best woman in the world was waiting for him at home? Even two. Only one was just a baby, only 2 months old. Emily, I'm home. His wife came out of the room. She had recovered quite imperceptibly and looked more at home, more kindly. She had a little girl in her arms, all dressed in pink frills. Here's our daddy. He hugged them. How much I love you. You have no idea." Emily smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "And we love you even more." Not once did he yell at his wife again, and his wife never gave him a reason to. Then Emily immediately gave the reins of power to her husband. He also became the director, and she decided that it was time to make sure that they had a real, strong family with a little happiness. Little happiness was not long in coming, and with the arrival of her daughter, Emily realized that she almost missed her greatest happiness. If you like the story, please support me with the Police Up button. It's one click, but it means a lot to me. Thank you.